Hello, and welcome to my pod, The Melancholy Guy Talks. And right now, I'm talking about recovery, living with addiction. This is a podcast about my life, The Melancholy Guy, daring to be black, open, and free. I'm sharing my journey through life while being an open, polyamorous, African American male living in recovery. I am The Melancholy Guy, Calvin, or CPJR if you know me. And today, I definitely believe that change I must or die I will. You can find me all over social media by searching for The Melancholy Guy, but I mostly hang out on Instagram. Click the link in the bio for more information and content from me. I have a Patreon set up, and you can help out with $1 or $5 a month, and you'll get easy access to all my old pods about ethical non-monogamy, the fun stuff that started it all. Links will be in the show notes. So let's talk. Today is March 10th, 2020, and it has been 52 days since I've found the need to pick up my drug of choice again, and today feels great. It feels great to living without being a slave to my addiction. So today's episode is my first 90 days, part 5, episode 49, and I'm going to continue my talk about the first 90 days, or what it's like to be in the first 90 days, and the 14 steps as written on addiction.com on how to have a successful 19 days. And last week I left off on step number 10. And step number 9. And I was talking about triggers. And I talked about how my trigger, of course, my trigger still is, cash, money, and payday. And I talked about how my ego was the biggest thing is one of the biggest obstacles that has kept me from actually facing that trigger. I think ego has a bit more. I think it also has a lot to do with some other issues as far as anger and things like that. But now that I have identified that trigger and accepted that has been what's been my biggest stumbling block, I hope to overcome that this go around. And I say this go around because I've probably, if I'm honest, I've been here before, and hopefully I won't be here again. Hopefully it'll be something else, but it won't be, because I think this is all about change, and not just saying that I have to change this one thing about myself. My ego is a little short-sighted. Like, if I could just conquer my ego and just do everything that's suggested to me, and then I'll be successful. Probably is a little short-sighted on my side, and I don't want anybody just to think that that's the only thing I'm dealing with. I'm also dealing with I'm going to talk about, there's another part to step number 9, and that's it says learning your triggers and practice healthy coping skills. And I'm going to read right quick. Since you can realize, the good news that most cravings, and that's what we're talking about. When I talked about it last week, I talked about you get the trigger, and the trigger leads you to the cravings. Now I'm going to read about cravings. The good news is that most craving and urges only last about 20 minutes. If you get through them by using your coping mechanisms, distractions, counting, cleaning, crossword puzzles, calling your 12-step sponsor, etc., you'll not only have effectively overcome the craving, you'll also have the beginning of a manual of various ways to help yourself stay sober or clean. And what I want to just say about that is, I have had instances where I have been triggered, and I have gotten triggers, and I have successfully gotten through it. There's also another acronym that I think I want to talk about too is called HALT: hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. That's like these are like common sense things anyone could use, but like as an addict, if you're going through, if you're being triggered and you're going through cravings and you're losing cravings, chances are you're going to be hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. And I know instances where I've had instances where I've been really doing great for months and months, haven't gotten triggered, handling monies perfectly and everything's going well, but I would let something upset me, right? And it's like a perfect storm. I I wasn't really thinking about it. I'll get angry and I'll get triggered, and then I'll have money, and then I'll just go out and I'll succumb to the addiction, and because I wasn't paying attention to being angry about something, and that's something that I definitely have to work on as a coping skill, and that's dealing with anger. I must admit I do have a problem with anger. It's not like a problem where it's I have a a violent problem with anger or anything like that. It's just I just can spark off and just start being wanting to tell someone off. Like I said before, I'm a fire sign of Aries, and I can go 0 to 100 in a second. And when I think about it, when I think about most times that I think that I'm right and I'm angry about something and I'm telling you about yourself, or I'm upset about you, the way somebody's doing something, if it's at work or something like that, most of the times I'm wrong, believe it or not. And that goes back to ego, not wanting to listen to someone tell me maybe a better way to do something, or want to take advice. And a lot of it, like I said, a lot of it too is also self-defense. A defense mechanism that may pop into play due to remember the cycle of addiction. I think it's the 5-point guide to cycle of addiction, pain to pain. So not dealing with something that in the past, some past trauma that you haven't dealt with, something gets triggered, and then next thing you know, you're off your game and using the whole trick of all this is laying a foundation for change. And a lot of times when you're dealing with an addict, or you are an addict, the addiction is the use. I should say the addiction. The use is the symptom. That means there's more things down beneath that need to be dealt with, that you haven't dealt with, that you cannot deal with until you stop. So the first step in all this is stop using. And so right now in the first 90 days, like what I'm keep talking about, and it may sound like I'm saying the same thing over and over again, and I'm gonna get through these first 90 days, these steps eventually. But I guess I'm taking my time with it because it's just where I'm at. It's what I have to deal with on a daily basis. And like I said, I don't go to meetings. I look at meetings on I do online meetings every day. And so I am in touch with like a recovery community, but I'm not like in the community. I probably could go to meetings, but I'm just not there. So so paying attention to if you're hungry, if you're angry, if you're lonely, and loneliness too. There was just an article that came out. Not an article. I guess it was an interview or a little soundbite or something like that came out on NPR Today, talking about loneliness and addiction. And that's a big thing, right? Like I have on my wall or somewhere around here that that the opposite of addiction is not abstinence. The opposite of addiction is connection, because a lot of addicts are actually alone. And it's something, if you've ever, and I pray that you never do, ever been in a room full of addicts and all using, there's no connection in that room. There's no connection for anyone in that room other than using. That is the reason that everyone is there. That is what everyone is fixated on, and nobody really wants to be there. They're just there. I don't care what they're talking about or what you think you hear. Like somebody think they're in some type of friendship or relationship. It's nothing but the drug. That's what's really going on. And what you really see is a room full of sick, lonely, scared people, just suffering from their addiction. And I posted like I said, if you follow me on social media, I put the link to the NPR interview on the Melancholy Guy. So if you're interested in hearing about that, yeah, you can find it there. And I'm trying to see if I actually left the article in my email. Well, I didn't leave it, but anyway, so that was an interesting thing because I've been seeing that more and more how loneliness is a big trigger or a big cause of a lot of people falling into addiction right now. Because even though we have social media, a lot of people are still just lonely, and for some reason, if you're like a if you're like a big person on social media, you actually don't leave the house. And so I'm gonna go to the next step, which is step 10. Don't rush back to work. I think I've mentioned that before, but basically, luckily for me, I had a little space. Like I said, I'll be going to work in like 3 weeks, starting back on my job. So we'll see how often I can keep doing the podcast. But the podcast will definitely start getting longer at that point because I think it'll give me more time to actually, work out ideas that I'm thinking about and speak a little longer about some of these things that I can't really talk about within the 15 minutes that I have. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to going back to work. I'm taking this time to really get healthy when I go back to work, and also um, I'm all going to talk about. I'm going to go down to step 11 now. I'm sorry, I'm bringing to my break for a second. I'm going to go down to step 11. It says limit social engagements, and I'm going to come back to this my next episode. But social engagements was something that I think I'm going to spend some time on because I was a little social, like back in my ethical non-monogamy days. Before this podcast was talking about my addiction, I used to talk about ethical non-monogamy, and one thing I used to do was really, really hide out in the ethical non-monogamy community because it was mostly on Facebook and it was mostly out of town, and you mostly only saw people online and you mostly only visited people. Most of the relationships were long distance, so it was easy to hide something like an addiction or any other type of mental issue. And a lot of people had mental issues or have mental issues in those groups, and you can just hide it because you don't see the people all the time, and you don't really get you're not really yourself online. You really you have an avatar, and there's a lot of that going on, and that's a lot of things that I did. And it's interesting that as I'm coming back to myself, or even if I am myself anymore, because I don't know, I'm not drinking anymore and all that kind of stuff, so I don't really know if I am the same person online as I used to be. Because I used to really be drinking a lot when I was even online. Come home, have a drink, get online, start talking, talking, trash online. But that's not me anymore. And I don't know if, like some people will reach out to me now, and I'm like, I'm not the same person. I only know what to talk about with you. I don't know how to talk to you. And I'm also seeing that a lot of people aren't even asking me about this addiction. Even though that's what I post about now. So it's kind of interesting to see people come back, reach out to me again once they see me back online, and they don't mention anything about ask me how I'm doing or anything about this addiction. So I'm gonna pick up right there next week on limiting social engagements and why that's important. In the few seconds I have left, I want to always take a moment for the still suffering addict. If you're still suffering from addiction or know someone suffering from addiction, it's not too late. It's never too late. You can stop using, as I'm doing right now, one moment at a time. And I'm going to end with remember to love yourself first, and all these things